Here's a big struggle so many of my clients, myself kind of included, struggled with when we got into the first few years of marriage. So if I have this right, for so many who have waited until their wedding night to have sex for the first time, you were struggling to get to that wedding night. That you were so ready. There's so much passion, so much desire. Man, we had like a sex drive and could not wait. And that's awesome. That's great. We celebrate that. But then what happens? You get to that wedding night and you encounter pain. Now, you should not have pain, but for those of us who have vaginismus or a chronic state of painful sex, oftentimes that wedding night was our first experience with pain. This is not everyone's story, and it should not be anyone's story because there should never be pain with sex. But for many of us, we do encounter pain on that night, and there's a whole bunch of reasons why, which I will save probably for another video. But you encounter pain, or it doesn't go in at all. Oh, that's frustrating. Okay, we're gonna keep working on it. So honeymoon comes, and you're like, yes, we're gonna get this on the honeymoon. For me, I treated this like I was about to conquer the biggest task of my life. I was like, by the end of this honeymoon, this will be good. I just have to get through the pain enough to make this possible. Total wrong move. And that's probably what set my vaginismus into being a huge, long journey, was the amount of pressure I put on my body and the desire I had to get past the pain. And so I pushed and I forced and I tried and I struggled and I cried to make sex get past it. You know, I had this false belief that I just had to like bust through the hymen or just get through, and that's so wrong. The hymen is not like that. It does not work like that. I just had this belief that is fabricated by our current society. That's what had to happen. So I pushed to get there. And so many of us similarly do. And then you get past the honeymoon, you get home, and then the dread kind of sets in. What happened? Why is this what I'm facing? Why is it still painful? Why is it not going in? And we keep struggling. We start to shut down. Our body starts to go numb to this. We start to feel like we're failing. We start feeling like we're not meant for this maybe. Now, this is my story, and I have heard a lot of my clients experience this, but again, this is not everyone's story. And so then, you know, months happen, maybe years happen, and you hate sex. You really do, because it's just full of dread for you. You feel like a failure. Your body is not working. You don't know what to do to support it. He's confused. He doesn't want to hurt you. He's trying to support you in this, but you both are just scratching your heads. Doctors have been dismissive. Treatments aren't working. You don't know what to do. And so then you've noticed, I have no sex drive anymore. Maybe that's my problem. I used to really, really want sex before I got married, and now I don't want it at all. So what happened? I would say that that's not what's causing the vaginismus, but vaginismus is causing the lack of desire. And so many of us before marriage have beautiful desires, and biology is on board with us, and we're like, yes. And that's natural. It should happen. When you are attracted to someone that you deeply love and desire, we're going to feel all the wonderful things in our body. We're going to crave that and desire that. And that's a really good thing to be celebrated. Even though we want to, you know, for many of us, we decide we want to wait until the context of marriage to truly celebrate that. We don't shame that outside of marriage. We recognize that's a natural desire of two human beings that are attracted together and they love each other. They want to be together. And that's so cool when you get to do that on the other side of marriage. And so when you get to the other side of marriage, it seems like sometimes for some of us that just drops off. Gone. Where did it go? A lot of times there's a misunderstanding of how desire works. And so before marriage, I mean, you have hormones raging. It's a little bit of a risky behavior. It's this thing that's on like kind of in the forbidden list. And so it makes you kind of want it even more. And so you have this really good, like beautiful desire. It just needs to be on the other side of marriage. But then when we get to that side of marriage, it's not there. And so what happens, I think, is we misunderstand female desire, specifically in the long-term relationship side of things. And so I'm a big fan of Emily Nagoski's work. A lot of us in the sex education world are. And she has so beautifully, clearly written out how spontaneous versus responsive desire work in her books. I definitely recommend reading them. They take the data and the science and they make it super palatable and easy to understand. But kind of a short bit of that is, you know, we have two different ways that we can respond to desire. We have spontaneous and we have responsive desire. Spontaneous desire is that classic desire I think we see represented in movies and in the media. It's a, hey, he gives you that look. Hey, you give him that look. Hey, things start getting a little bit spicy, and then bing, bada, boom, bada, boom, clothes are coming off and it's heated and spicy and beautiful. And this may have been kind of what you felt before marriage, this like desire for that. Spontaneous desire is great. Typically, this is how men operate, is that spontaneous desire. They can see your body and they get turned on by it spontaneously. Now, majority of women, especially in a longer term relationship like marriage, tend to be towards responsive desire. And I am generalizing here. Responsive desire is not something that just like happens and all of a sudden there's a flood of hormones and everything's ready and let's get it on. It's a slow trickle effect. And it's like a series of corridors that you walk through with like climax being at the end. And so whereas spontaneous, you bust into this grand ballroom kind of situation and you're like, I'm here for the party. With responsive, there's a lot of corridors that lead up to that grand ballroom, and each of those corridors are beautiful, and they have their own decor and their own lighting, and they're small little rooms that really are inviting, but they're not quite that big thing yet. And so with responsive desire, those corridors start outside the bedroom. They start, maybe even in the morning when you wake up. And it's things like inviting intimacy into your mind and into your body by just thinking about it and feeling it and visualizing it in a sense. But it's also him kind of coming in and being emotionally there and connecting. It's him having vulnerable conversations with you. Maybe it's him kind of like just gently stroking your hair while you guys watch a movie. Those are behaviors that are going to help open up the door to the next corridor. And so for many of us women, if we just kind of like bust through all the doors and try and get to that last one, we come dysregulated. Our body's not ready. We didn't get the right timing of hormones released to get natural lubrication on board, the elongation of the vaginal canal that we need. And so sex isn't fun. It's not really desirable. And sometimes it's actually painful when we don't have the full desire corridor release. And so by going to each room, your body is slow releasing the right hormones and the right neurotransmitters and the right everything it needs to make that process more streamlined and beautiful and intentional. So you have to go through each door. Now that's different for everyone, but that's responsive desire. So it looks different for every woman. And I encourage you to figure out, what does that look like for me? You have to have kind of some intentionality here and some insight to kind of learn, what does my body need to get through the next corridor? And sometimes that's even just like committing to going through the door. So I might feel, I'm not really sure I'm in the mood right now, but I'm up to give it a try. Now, this isn't obligation. We definitely don't have sex if we don't want to. Please hear me out on that. You don't have sex if you don't want to. If you're not feeling good, if you're dysregulated, if you're really working through something, you can say no to sex, and please do. But sometimes we can say, let me see what happens. And this is just a curiosity. I don't physically feel like I want to have sex right now, but I recognize that as I go through the corridors, as I go through this process, those hormones will start releasing and my body might actually show up for me in a way I'm not anticipating. So sometimes I would say, I'm not quite in the mood, but let's see what happens. And then we start just connecting and we start going through corridor to corridor, and slowly my mind and my body are like, let's do it, I'm in. And so that has transformed the way that I see intimacy in so many of our clients. Once we figure out that we're not broken, but that actually our desire has shifted from before marriage to now, then we can celebrate our bodies. We can work with that desire rather than keep fighting up against it. Because remember, if you go from 0 to grand ballroom with a responsive desire-esque kind of woman, you're just gonna feel irritated and frustrated by it. Him touching your booty is not gonna feel sexy, it's gonna feel like violating in a sense. And so even though his intentions aren't that and your intentions aren't that, your body's receiving it that because it didn't get the right release of hormones, the right preparation that it needed to let that booty touching be sexy and intimate. Instead, it's just kind of abrasive and not appreciated. So in order to get this to be appreciated and invited, let's go through the formal invitation process. We're not busting in, we're gonna formally kind of build up to that. And that's really sweet and really beautiful and so empowering when we can do that. So my encouragement to you would be to explore what those corridors look like. What are different things that build that desire in you? Whether it's conversations or certain types of touch or watching a certain movie together or whatever that is that's deeply connecting for you, that you can feel the body kind of leaning closer towards that grand experience. So figure out what some of those are, talk with your husband about this, and then I'd also encourage you that as long as you're not doing this out of obligation at all, to say yes and see what your body does. Have some curiosity with this and say, you know what? I'm gonna say yes and see if my body wants to follow. Because sometimes the brain just opening that first door allows the body to kind of follow later. So I would just say, go for it. And then in that moment, when you say yes, instead of like thinking about, the laundry and all the things that we tend to think about, I would just focus on things that you feel in your body. Do you feel his hand on your shoulder? Do you feel blood flow going anywhere? Do you feel a heart rate increasing? Whenever you get distracted, come back and focus on your body, because that's gonna help that somatic experience be enhanced. So if you're someone who was like, I'm all for it before marriage and then now I hate it and I don't want it, here might be the missing piece. It's not necessarily a hormone imbalance. It's not necessarily even vaginismus, although that could contribute to you not wanting sex at all. But sometimes even that misunderstanding of how desire has shifted post-wedding night can be the key to unlocking really, really awesome desire that both of you can celebrate together and learn how to work through together. And it's so cool and it's so deeply connecting and beautiful. So if you want to learn more, or if you're just interested in like figuring out what it looks like to get past the pain and increasing desire, hey, let's talk, let's chat. I would love to kind of unfold more of your story and where you've been and share more about what we offer to be able to hopefully get you past this and fully enjoying sex the way God designed it to be.